think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine.
All right, we're live streaming, you guys, so be on your best behavior.
Now, what's going to be the program?
What you're doing.
Let's see, where?
The whole thing is called City Voices. And Dan, let me know. I'm trying to tell somebody something.
That's okay. We have 5 minutes. Please
talk
good. Amongst yourselves or get into that alpha state.
Dan coordinates an organization, I think it's voluntary, called City Voices for people mostly in New York that have had psychiatric experiences. So and he does various things during the week and a peer support program and blah, blah, blah. But then this is their Saturday spirituality.
Oh, I see.
Which kind of ranges from a lot of different things. But he's had some really good speakers on. Yeah.
He does more. I don't know how he does as much as he does. You're really good at what you do, Dan.
Well, I have multiple personalities. One personality is doing this, the other one's doing this, the other one's doing this. And then we all have meetings and I talk to myself.
Well, I always wondered how you get these people on Saturdays. Most of them now are way out of my league, actually. You know, they're
well, Chris can speak to this. Chris, can you share how I found you and how we got you to speak?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming you found me because I spoke on another spiritual podcast, and because to share my story about my Kundalini activation, and so I did that, and lots of people watched it, amongst like you, and reached out and said, "Hey, you want to come and speak somewhere else?" And I said, "Sure." So that's.
See, it's just that easy, Bluebird. You watch a video, you get inspired by somebody, and then you look in the notes of the video, and there's a website, and you contact them, and then here he is.
I get it. I've done a lot of that too. Not so much anymore, but I have. I look out for interesting people, right? And for the arts world, when I was developing arts exhibits, when I was, I find these artists that I never heard of, nobody ever heard of. So, but you find them in different ways, that's for sure.
What story are you reading?
I'm reading the airplane story and a little bit of the first story. So Mark, what I'd like you to do is help me time, because I'm going to talk for a little while and then read the stories.
Okay, well, I've got to leave by 12:30. So
Huh?
I've got to leave by 12:30.
Okay, but that's the timing I need. Yeah. I need about 15 minutes, I think, to just talk.
How long does it last?
Till 1. You don't have to stay until 1. Yeah.
So we'll start in about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then I'll put your image on the video, and then I'll introduce you, Bluebird, and then you'll speak, and it's in just about 1 minute and change.
Just about a minute for what? Okay.
A minute and a few seconds before I introduce you.
I see.
So everyone focus on your breathing. Chaplain James, how are you doing? Chaplain James.
Marvelous.
Chaplain James, guess where I was last night?
Where?
I was at the National Action Network's Harlem space listening to a gospel choir.
Oh.
You are getting around, aren't you?
It would have been nice if you were there too.
I know, but maybe next time.
Did I tell you about it?
Did you tell me about it? No.
Yeah, you didn't get an email about it?
No.
I have to work on that.
Yes, do work better.
Hello, Kira. How are you? Kira, is your husband sleeping?
Yeah, I'm and yeah.
I mean,
Hi.
your boyfriend, yes, yes. Oh,
And-
hello, Kira.
And I'm also, just organizing a little before I put my video on.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start the this talk today right now. And let me just share. I hope everyone can see this. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special Saturday spirituality group with our guest, Bluebird, who you can see in the picture holding her cute little doggy. So let's join the conversation about how animals communicate. Bluebird will share her personal experiences with her beloved dog Tootles from 20 years ago, the late Tootles, the late very special Tootles, who's resting in peace and fun, who inspired a fun and inspirational book called Tootles, told in Tootles' own voice, which is now published. Now, May May, who I believe is the dog in the picture, her current little Cheenie, will also be present to offer her unique insights into life through her eyes. Bluebird has learned that dogs can understand approximately 250 words. Now, that's not 249, and that's not 251. It's precisely 250. After that, the dog just goes, okay, I'm sorry. After her presentation, you'll have the opportunity to share how your own pets contribute to your well-being. And so without further ado, we welcome Bluebird.
Hello, everybody. Does my face get shown totally or not?
It's beautiful, Bluebird.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, yes, thank you. So are you, Anne? Dan. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really honored, happy, pleased to be here. And to be honest, this was my idea. And one of the reasons that I had the idea originally was to promote the book that I wrote called Tootles Tales, spelled Tails. And Tootles was my dog years ago when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, who went with me on all kinds of adventures. And I put our adventures together into her voice, which worked really well. And so I now have about 30 stories. In the book that I published recently, I think there's 6 or 7 stories. So I was hoping that you would have an interest in the book. I'm going to read a story and part of a story in the book from Tootles Tales. And but also in preparation, I thought a lot about, well, how do dogs, in the beginning it was like, well, how do dogs communicate? And then finding out that they know 250 words, and I made a list, and I think I have about 100, and then I sort of got bored with it. But anyway, May May, now she's my dog now, and some of you who have been at Harvey's conferences might have met her. She usually goes with me. Now she's getting old, so at any rate, she's still quite perky. And so in doing this, I started looking up things about dogs and about how our pets are helpful to us. And there's lots of good reasons why they're helpful. And I sent Dan a message about the title, which is like, I think it started out as How Dogs Communicate. And he wrote back and said very nicely, because Dan is like the most polite person I've ever met in my life. But Gayle, most of our people don't have dogs. Oh my gosh, I just had this assumption that everybody had a dog. And most of our people have other kinds of pets. And so I thought, oh, and then I looked up, then I had to kind of change my thoughts about the whole thing and be more inclusive of other pets, maybe cats, and maybe gerbils, maybe birds. I have a friend that has a bird here. A friend that's right with me right now is a owner companion of a cat. So so I started doing a lot of kind of research. I looked up to see what are the guidelines in New York City? How many people have pets? Well, turns out that 70 or 75% of landlords do not allow pets at all. And as I go along, some of you are going to be more familiar with some of these things than I am. Then there was this kind of interesting quote there also about, but the landlord can only evict you if he finds your pet before 3 months. And I thought, well, wow, that's redundant. What do? Hide your pet for 3 months and then he can't, I don't quite understand how that works either, but that was there. Another interesting thing about New York City is that pet stores can no longer, this was as of December 24, can no longer sell cats and dogs. And again, maybe some of you know that. It was interesting to me. So I guess the only way in New York City you can get a dog is probably at the Humane Society. Maybe that took effect, maybe it didn't. I don't know. And then I thought a lot about pets and responsibilities. And, there's a whole list of reasons why pets are helpful to us, which are obvious. Pets are our companions. They help us out of loneliness. They're what's the word I'm looking for? Everyone, I'm 82, folks, and I keep forgetting kind of words. There are what's the word I'm looking for?
You think of a synonym?
Therapeutic.
Well, no matter what. What's the word for that? Unconditional. They're unconditional. I think that's one of the neat things about pets. And they become family, and both of my pets, May and Tootles, became part of my family. Both of them go with me or did go with me everywhere. And, and they're also very social. Both of my dogs have been very social, and that's not true. There's a lot of variables, of course, of how dogs are and whether they bark. And also now what's happening with dogs is that there's training for them to become emotional support dogs or service dogs. And some of you might be familiar with service dogs. What's also interesting, and this also includes other pets actually, and includes cats, is that, well, no, actually this would be dogs mostly, is that they become dogs that are used as guide dogs in a military presence, in a war zone. And so I watched a movie called, which I'm going to just, if you jot some of these down, I looked up, there are tons and tons of books and lots of books about talking animals, talking dogs. And so I watched Megan Levy. This was a beautiful film. If you haven't watched it, please watch it, because this is I forget what they call them, a guide dog that she was in Iraq and saved her life. And then it goes on to how she had to fight a huge battle for the dog to become her own after she left the armed services. Anyway, that was a good book, a good story, good movie. So, and then there's some negative sides about having a pet, and I sort of forgot about them. And then I thought about myself, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's some things that, I might not lock all the time. I have to be responsible for feeding my dog. Last night, here's an example of how Tootle, no. I'm going to get confused about Tootles and May. May is my current dog. She's actually getting older, but she is the most complacent dog, never complains. And so yesterday, my granddaughter, lovely Lily, was here, and we went for a walk in the afternoon, and at night it rained. So she didn't get her second walk. And I called my friend Marcia this morning to take her out. And when Marcia brought her back, she said, May made 8 wee-wees. We call it wee-wee. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's because she didn't get out. But she's the most patient dog. So she waits. but there's just a lot of things I have to think about, what I'm going to feed her, who's going to take care of her when I go away, how am I going to feel when she leaves, different considerations of responsibility. A pet is really a lot of responsibility. So there's positives and negatives of having a dog, and a lot of responsibilities also for having a cat. Even though Mark is here and has a cat, he doesn't have to walk Rat. But I will tell you something about Mark, and he's sitting here, and I know he's not going to do it, but I did want him to do it, which is how cats communicate. So when I asked him about this, he said, "Oh yeah, well, my cat has 3 different kinds of meows." Now, I'm not going to do this right, but he said he wouldn't do it for me, and maybe he'll come forward. But there's a meow, for a purring cat, and a meow. They're hungry. And then there's the growling cat. Meow. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, it's after cat.
Huh?
After catnip.
After cat what?
Nip.
Oh, after catnip. What's the meow then?
That's the one you just did.
The growl?
Yeah. He plays with the smells and he growls.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. When his cat gets catnip, it growls. I don't know. I thought that was when they were afraid. But there's very, very many valuables. I found a couple interesting things about cats, and I'm also watching my time because I want to read you some portions of Tootle's tales. Oh yeah. So and there's difference also between cat people and dog people. And cat people are much more reticent and quiet and not aggressive or assertive as much as dog people are. Well, that kind of makes sense because you have to take a dog out, and the dog has to either be social or not social. So there's a little more of a difference between, and I think they've done studies too about, why somebody is a cat person and why somebody might be a dog person. In my case, it might be simply that my grandchildren grew up with cats. I grew up with dogs, and so some of it has to do with what we grow up with, who our pets were. Some of you, again, I'm wanting you to think about your own pets, about your own experiences, because I'm going to open this up for you to talk about your pets. And now I'm going to include things like lizards and birds. I had a friend that was going to be here, and I was going to ask her to talk about how her bird talks, and reptiles of all kinds, and you name them. Fish. What are some of the other kinds of turtles? Rabbits. The interesting thing about rabbits is that they said they were the most positive for mental health. Now, I don't know how they got that one, but anyway. And the thing about cats, and I didn't do as much research, but I always look for interesting, quirky things. And there was a woman who was called Catwoman. I'll give you her name if I can find it in my notes. But she had a lot of surgery, facial surgery, and I think she intended to look like a cat, but the ending result was that she did look. You know about that one, Marcia? Oh, okay. So anyway, and then afterwards, so she's known for it. It's on the web. You can look her up, and I also thought, I wondered if she was one of the impetus for the movie or the musical Cats, but I don't think that was true. Anyway, I'll tell you her name a little bit later. It was a Jennifer something. And then she insisted later, after all of this face surgery, that that was really her natural face. Well, I hardly believe it. I think she and her husband got a divorce after that. I'm not sure. But anyway, she really did look like a cat, and that wasn't a positive experience. And then there was something that I read about cats that, in fact, they have 800 meows. Okay. 800 meows. I thought that was kind of interesting. One other study that was done was they're doing all kinds of research and with this idea of communication. And there was in the New York Times in January was a whole spread about how dogs communicate, and they found out that if they had these seals or whatever they were circles that made a sound like when they were hungry or when they were this or that, and they would learn how to use those circles, called circles. That was very interesting. So it was a big, long article about all kinds of research that's being done. All right. Let's see.
You want the name of the woman?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Jocelyn Wildenstein, the Swiss. That's a tongue twister. The Swiss socialite. The Swiss socialite. Best, oh, I can't see it now. Best known. Somebody's showing it to me. Oh, okay.
She's a cat woman.
Huh?
She's a cat woman.
Yeah, she's best known for it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
for her cat.
And there was another statistic that a cat had lived, I forget how many years, but anyway, there's some statistics on the differences between how long cats and dogs. Oh, I wanted to tell you about one other thing about and I'll probably send a list to Dan, but there's a book called by Bruce Cameron. I think he's written several books about dogs. What was interesting is this book is called A Dog's Purpose, and I'm pretty sure it's made into a movie. I haven't looked at the movie, but that was the first time that I saw an author writing about an actual pet dying and the family being around. Oh, this was also written in the voice of the pet, of the dog. And I thought, oh, that is really interesting to imagine how a dog felt when the injection was given. Maybe that's kind of, I don't know, a little heavy, but then the book went on to a second stage, which was the dog reincarnated to another dog. And I thought, well, that's the first time I've seen that. But anyway, so there's all kinds of things that are being written. There's a interesting book about, I know I have time. The interesting book here that I would never have known about, but I read about it in Amazon or something, The Cat Who Saved Books. And so this book is written in the cat's voice. And it was a Japanese author that became a totally well-known award-winning book about a cat who pals up with a young man to save books from owners that were abusing them. All right, so I hope that was interesting. I don't know. That's not the main purpose. The main purpose is to read you a couple stories from Tootle's Tales. I'm not going to read, well, yeah, one of them is going to be a whole story. Look at let me see, 1153. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that book is on Amazon. A Dog's Purpose is on Amazon.
Tootle's Tales.
Tootle's Tales is on Amazon and costs $12 on Amazon. You can get it from me with an autograph for $10. I don't know if we're going to give the information, but you can get the information about how to write to me to get a book. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts that I'm forgetting? Okay. So Tootle's Tales, let me see. Can you see that? This Tootle's Tales is I had somebody who was a photographer who was a professional photographer came and took a whole bunch of very pretty little photographs of Tootles. This is one of them. This is like a Christmas image. And so it says Tootle's Tales, Tails, an adventurous and inspirational dog by Tootles and her companion, Gayle Bluebird. They're all true stories, by the way. I didn't make any of them up. As true as you can be with a with the voice being, or the narrator being the dog. Okay. Well, the first chapter is interesting as to how Tootles came into Bluebird's life, and it's titled, "My Name is Miss Gertrude Tootles." So I'm not going to read the beginning, but I'll tell you that what happened was that Bluebird wasn't looking for a dog when she went to the Humane Society. She was taking her neighbor who was a cat collector and occasionally a dog. She was called the Cat Woman. And she was like desperate to find this dog that the Humane Society had picked up. And she was accusing the Humane Society of killing her dog. So she was determined to go to the Humane Society, and she asked Bluebird if she would take her. And so I did. And so in order to get away from Grace in the what do you call that? The Humane Society, in the pound. Yeah, maybe that's one word. She went to a different, well, because you can imagine she was screaming and, it's like, "You killed my dog." And so in order to not be around her, she went to a different area for adopting for dogs that were being adopted or were available for being adopted. So I thought I would read you a portion which features Tootles, and most of these stories are almost all in Tootles' voice, and she would be talking about Bluebird, but Bluebird wouldn't in these stories talk about Tootles. Anyway, unless it was that Tootles was hearing something that she was telling somebody else. Anyway, so this is Tootle sitting in a cage. And what she was thinking. "At the time, I was sitting in a cage in the room, twiddling my paws and bored to death. I was not happy because I had not found a new human companion that day and was about to give up looking. While most people think it is the human who chooses their dog, I maintain it is the dog who chooses their companion." I like that line. I think it's true. "I decided to take a nap, but I could not get comfortable. I scrunched around, twisting and turning, then started to settle as best I could, wishing I had a blanket over me, as it was cold in the adoption room. I love the Humane Society, but believe me, it's not the Hilton Hotel. I was looking for a special kind of companion. Someone who likes adventure, someone who likes to travel, and I wanted someone who likes to snuggle with their dog. But no one like that came along. People stopped by my cage and looked in. They said, ooh, and ah, and all kinds of cutesy things, but I showed no interest. I held my head down and did not look up, trying to discourage them. If it was a loud talking man, I barked. The problem was that so often men were too loud. Some of them carry something that in my mind looks like a stick. I was scared because a man speaking harshly to me once hit me with a stick, and I didn't want to be hit again. After I barked a few too many times when loud men approached my cage, the caretakers got tired of coming to my cage to calm things down. They put a sign on my cage that said, this is true, doesn't like men. They should have noted that I didn't bark at all men, just the ones who were too loud. I was just starting to get comfortable and beginning to nod off when a woman came into the room who caught my eye. She wore a little beanie cap that had twirling strings dangling on one side of her face. She was small, and she wore a long skirt dotted with polka dots. She did not stay long at any of the cages, and she didn't talk to any of the dogs, of which there were many of different shapes and sizes. I wanted her to notice me. Should I bark, I wondered? No, I didn't think so. I was already in trouble for barking. I wanted to look good. Maybe I should take a quick bath, but there wouldn't be anyone in the shelter to give me a bath anyway. To be honest, I hate baths. And in the I hate baths, and if I tried to smell good, it would only last a few minutes. The whole adoption area has a bad smell because there are so many dogs in one place. A bath would not help very much. As she neared my cage, I started to pose, sitting up straight with my ears carefully poked to the side and my nose pointed straight up in the air. It is a technique that I have perfected and used many times with humans. It always seems to work. I get lots of attention. Just as the little woman approached my cage, a man who I hadn't noticed suddenly appeared. Oh no, he was big and so tall I had to strain my neck to look up at him. His thick, muscular arm had a tattoo with a serpent on it. Yuck. He had a booming voice, and you could not help but hear every word he said while talking on his cell phone. I haven't found any cute dog so far, he said, totally ignoring the sign on my cage. One of the dogs had spots on it, and another was too skinny. It looked like it hadn't eaten in a long time. Then he looked at me. Oh, wait a minute, he said excitedly. Here is a little hot dog. I shuddered. I do not mind being called a hot dog by children who mean well. In fact, hot dogs are among my favorite things to eat, but I do not like being called a hot dog by an adult. Grrr. So the story goes on, and it goes on to including Grace, her name was Grace, who continues to be loud and persistent. And Bluebird, by this time, Bluebird is determined. Well, for one thing, she took the dog before the, loud man could get the dog. And so that's how she got Tootles. And by the time they got to the counter to sign papers and things, Grace was really out of control. And Bluebird said, go get in the car right now. Something like that. I don't know, something like that. And anyway, Tootles wound up being on Grace's lap in the car. And it was sort of the example of how many times in the future Tootles would be a comfort dog and would be not a service dog, but well, I'm going on to read you a story about it, about her being a
Emotional support.
Huh?
Emotional support.
Well, she was an emotional support dog, but then there's another category, which is being a
Companion.
no wait a minute. I have a whole story on it, and I wasn't going to read that story, but they're a
service dog or this other type of dog.
It's like next to a service dog. It doesn't get as much training.
Oh,
A support. Well, I'll say a support dog. There's another. Somebody on listening is probably knowing.
Are you thinking therapy dog?
Therapy dog? Yes, yes, therapy dog. And so I have a whole story about her becoming a therapy dog and the experience of that. I'm not going to read it, but at any rate, there are different times in different parts of the stories where it's obvious how Tootles uses her comfort, to help others. So, and also another thing about Grace is that she attended a mental health community peer support program that Bluebird volunteered in. And so Bluebird did know her, and Grace comes up several times in all of the stories. But anyway, but I'm going to read you another story, which I think is fun. which is called But I Didn't Bark. And this was a time that Bluebird was taking May on a airplane trip. And we were going to visit, Kelly's on listening here, and David, my son, in North Carolina. And you probably all know this, but there's a lot of different rules and guidelines and whatever that have been created to prevent people bringing dogs on airplanes. Now they have to be a service dog, which requires, and there's actually books written about how dogs what the training is like for a dog to become a service dog. Okay, so this is called But I Didn't Bark. Get in, Tootles. This is your traveling on the airplane bag, said Bluebird. I love to travel, but getting into a bag? Why can't I just stay out of the bag and sit on her lap, I wondered. Bluebird answered as if she understood my question. I'm sorry, Tootles. I have to put you in this bag because it is the airline's regulation. Dogs must be in bags, but at least you will be right near me. I will keep you next to my feet on the plane. My head, she says as she's going into the bag. Do I have to put my head in this bag? I had no choice. Despite my wriggling, Bluebird placed my head firmly in the bag and held me tight until she zipped the bag closed. Don't bark on the plane, Tootles. You must be very quiet. People like to read or sleep. They do not want to hear a dog barking. So off we went. I tried to get comfortable in the bag. There was a nice soft rug on the bottom and a screen so I could look out, even if I could only see people's feet and legs. At the luggage check-in, Bluebird said to the skycap, these 2 bags go in the luggage compartment. She was referring to her blue bag with the wheels and her orange bag with flowers all over it. This black one, she said, has Tootles in it, my little dachshund. She is going to stay with me. I waited to see if the man would take time to pet me, but he was in a hurry and quickly looked at me through the netting on the bag. Cute dog, he said, returning to check other luggage. Next, we had to go through a checkpoint where all carry-on bags were placed on a belt. Was I going to have to go on a belt? I wondered. I would rather not. I was careful not to bark, though I could see a wand waving back and forth at people. I do not like anything that is shaped like that, particularly when it looks like it is being used as a weapon. Don't bark, I said to myself. The lady let Bluebird carry me through the detector and did not wave her wand at me. Thank goodness. Cute dog, she said, the lady said, but she didn't have time either. She was on to checking the next person and waving her wand again. Bluebird put me back in the black bag. My head, but I didn't bark. On the plane, Bluebird carried me through the aisle to our seat. Everyone was shuffling bags and sitting down as fast as they could. Scrunch, scrunch. Under the seat I went. I could feel Bluebird's foot next to me. Are you okay? She asked. I could hear her but not see her. I was a little bit nervous, but I didn't bark. I didn't bark. But I did keep my ears wide open to whatever was going on. The flight attendant came along. Do you want coffee, tea, or soda? She asked each passenger. I smelled the roasted coffee and heard the tearing of peanut bags. Oops, an empty peanut bag fell right next to me. Forget it, I thought, and I didn't bark. Eventually, I settled down to the steady hum of the plane and managed a nice nap next to Bluebird's foot. We had to change planes in the city of Atlanta, and Bluebird took me out of my traveling bag while we sat and waited for the next plane. I sat up smartly and posed, thinking surely somebody would stop and talk to me. Everyone was busy, though, and hardly noticed me at all. They were all talking on their cell phones. Cute dog, said one woman finally, who then returned to powdering her nose. Soon we were back on the plane again. I heard a voice say, "Fasten your seatbelts," just like the last time. But I didn't have a seatbelt. Vroom, vroom, roar. I could feel the motor of the plane beneath me. I liked the feeling of going up in the air, although I wished I could look out the window. But I didn't bark. I didn't bark. Finally, we were at our destination. Bluebird's son David met us at the baggage claim. I was finally out of my bag and being admired by one of the passengers who had been on our flight. "You mean your dog was on the flight?" she said. "Why, I had no idea she was there. She was so quiet. She never made a sound." David grabbed my empty travel bag and the other bags, and we all went to the car where I sat on Bluebird's lap. Then I could look out a window and finally relax. "You were such a good dog," said Bluebird, praising me and petting me. She turned to David. "You should have seen how good she was. She never barked or made a sound." At David's house, I met David's wife, Kelly, and their dog, Sydney, as well as Pip, the cat of the house. "Woof, woof," I barked. Then I chased Sydney and Pip all around the house. "Woof, woof." It felt good to move around and bark for a while. Neither Sydney nor Pip were interested in the chase and finally gave up. David wasn't impressed. "Does your dog always bark so much?" he asked. Oh, well, you cannot please everyone, I thought. Okay, that's the end of that story. And well, one of the things about the story is that it's questionable about, are these stories just for children? But I think they're sort of appropriate for all ages. And I've sold a bunch of books here to people that are seniors, all over 55 and mostly over 70 and many over 80. Like I'm 82, so I just had to put that in there. And oh, and they all liked it. I even put down their quotes. They didn't think of it as so much as a children's story as much as that they could enjoy it. So and also at each of these stories we put a lesson. So in this lesson, the question was, are there places where you need to be quiet? Where? How does it feel when somebody tells you to be quiet? Do you think it's always fair? So each chapter, like I said, does have a little lesson at the end. Again, mostly probably appropriate for children. I want to say that a couple people here in my building helped me illustrated the book. We have a very, very fine artist named Carrie, and so she did the illustrations. And my friend Mark, who's sitting here, and he never wants his name mentioned at all, but his name is Mark, and he did the cover design. Okay. He takes credit for that, but I think he did a great job. And also on the back. Now, you'll notice on the back, if you can see it, that Tootles has a crooked tail. And so there's a chapter about, well, all the chapters, all the stories have lessons to them, mostly ones that we as adults have to learn also. But Tootles had a crooked tail. So there's a whole chapter about her being called, the children saying, "Oh, your dog, did you know your dog has a crooked tail?" And then how Tootles gets very, very self-conscious about her Tootles tail. And she's wondering if she could get, what do you call it? She could get surgery. Surgery on her tail to correct her tail. So she'd have a straight tail. And then she decides that she didn't think Bluebird would go for that at all. And she finally has to just sort of, you know, she finally had to just, like herself as she was, which is, of course, the lesson in the story about beauty. So the whole story on that one is about beauty. And I like the on the back cover, it says, this to me is the line that I think I like the best. While most people think it is humans who choose their dog, I maintain it is the dog who chooses their companion. So, of course, this presentation went further than dogs to cats to gerbils. And another little anecdote is that I go to a vet, and the vet sees not just the cats and dogs, but also lizards. What do you call those? Not mammals, but you call them reptiles. So one time I was sitting there, and this guy had two. I don't know if they're lizards. They had some other major name, but he
Bearded dragon.
huh?
Bearded dragon.
A bearded dragon, an iguana. I can't remember. There were two of them. One of them had a stomach ache, and that's why they were there. So I, I guess was truly amazed that people that have their different kinds of what is the word? Lizards,
Reptiles.
reptiles. I can't certain names I can't say. Reptiles also see their animals as communicating. So I think if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to open it up. I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts were. Dan, by the way, wrote me a very nice review on the
Amazon.
Actually, this is a funny story because it said Danny something, Danny Bow or something like that. And so I was telling somebody, somebody named Danny wrote a review, and I said, I don't know anybody by name of Danny. I said, that's really neat. Somebody that doesn't even know me wrote this nice, beautiful review. It took me a while to figure out it was Dan Frey. So thank you, Dan, for such a nice review.
Now the link to the Amazon to purchase Tootles Tales is in the chat. If anyone would like to purchase, and how can they get a signed copy, Bluebird?
Well, I guess that they could send me an email first.
Oh, all right. So
which is fine. Okay. Do you have the email?
Let's see. I would have to look it up, but I can email everyone the email.
All right. It's my
Unless
name, Gayle Bluebird, 1943 at gmail.com. Not too hard. Gayle. Gayle. Yep.
Gayle Bluebird, 19 what? 45?
1943.
Oh, a good year, 1943.
Yeah.
At gmail.com. Well, Bluebird, that was so beautiful. I felt like a little child tucked up in bed where my mother or my grandmother reading to me a beautiful story of animals that I loved. So I thought, yes, let's open it up to the rest of the group. And why don't we talk about our experiences with animals? How about that? So now, Emmeline and Chris, I'm going to take a step back. If you guys could coordinate with the audience here, a discussion about animals, that would be fantastic, or any which way you guys envision it as the co-hosts.
No problem, Dan. I will, I'll start and talk a little bit about my experience with animals, and then I'll pass it off to whoever wants to go after me. I thank you so much, Bluebird. I really enjoyed, listening to you, read the from your book and talk about your experiences. And the whole time you were doing that, I was thinking about as you suggested, my experiences with the animals that I've had. And in particular, I may have mentioned this last week to the group, I don't remember, but the last dog that I had, which was a therapy dog for my partner, who has since passed. And she was just this incredible, incredible little cross between a Maltese and a Yorkie. And had a virtually a psychic connection, to Kimberly, and to myself. I mean, there were episodes where she would, alerting us to something that was going on. And I also, my ears perked up when you mentioned about dogs reincarnating, because I had been told, I was told that my last dog, Shoshana, was the reincarnation of my childhood dog, Shayna. And when it was like a light bulb went off when I was told that, because they were exactly the same personality. And it was always like Shoshana knew me from somewhere else. And well, she did. She knew me because when she was the Shetland sheepdog when I was 10 years old. And I fully believe that. And the person who told me that also said that for anyone who has had a beloved pet, you could pray to Creator and ask, if you want to have another pet, you can in prayer ask that your previous pet come back to you in a new pet, and you just have to pray. Once you're ready to get the next pet, you can pray for that, and then you will be guided to to connect again with that pet. And I haven't tried that yet with Shoshana, but when I'm ready for my next dog, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to reunite for the third time in my lifetime with my dog. And with that, I will pass it off to whoever else wants to share a little bit about pets. And thanks again, Gayle. It's I really enjoyed listening to you read.
Who else would like to share an experience about their pet? If they had a dog in the past, how they feel about it? If not, yes.
Oh no, you want to say?
No, absolutely, go for it, please.
Okay. I'm Kira. Yeah, I absolutely loved those stories. I thought I just loved them. Gayle, Bluebird, the stories that you read of yours, that somehow I thought they struck the right balance between a human's voice and making sense that that experience would come from a dog. I don't know. I thought those stories were great. I could go on and on about, it's interesting because so much of my life is about the fellow creatures, but yet when somebody describes their, baby, it just sounds one-dimensional. So I know when I describe my babies, it sounds one-dimensional. Yeah. So just okay. So I have, complex PTSD. I can't live without humans. There's some humans that I love, but it's just, human relationships for me are a challenge. And so with them, the fellow creatures, I don't know how to say it, I'm just more able to let down my guard and be more in the moment with them. So it's very therapeutic that way. And right, because they're more straightforward, probably even, I think, the the most well-intentioned humans. You know, we all have other stuff, you know, like Jung, you know, describes it as like the shadow self. They have it too. It's just more straightforward. It's more simple, you know. And also, you know, also, yeah, like, you know, if I'm in a mood, whatever, which is often, and then I walk my dog, I'm more likely to, you know, feel better, because if I'm talking to other dog, you know, people, humans, parents, companions, and I'm also, yeah, like, so I live right between the Upper East Side and East Harlem, and I don't feel necessarily like I fit in either neighborhood necessarily, but yet when I'm with my dog, somebody from any neighborhood with their dog, you know, it just, there's like a connection, talking to each other. And then, yeah, I could just go on and on about like one of my dogs who got her super sick, nursing her back to health, you know, help me keep going. I just, all this stuff. So I just could go on and on, but that's not fair. So I appreciate this. And so I'll pass, you know.
Thank you, Kira. Is there anyone else who's interested in sharing about their experiences with animals or about Bluebird's reading?
Hey, yeah, this is Kelly. I'm a daughter-in-law and was presented in one of those stories. And I had obviously the privilege of knowing Tootles and May May, and they're both really lovely dogs. And they've just been perfect companions to Bluebird. It is interesting how they both chose her, and it was just a perfect match. But I also wanted to say that that I've had dogs all my life, and also some cats. But yeah, dogs are to me like so special. And I was just mentioning to someone the other day about how I have an Australian Shepherd now, and she's basically my best friend. Sorry, I'm gonna get emotional for a second. Because I've had a lot of medical stuff going on, and been at the house more often than usual. And it's just so important to have that companionship. Um, and my dog's like always there for me. And like if I'm taking a nap, she's snuggling with me, and then, you know, helps me get out and exercise. And I don't know, it's just, yeah, the the our pets are more than just pets. They're definitely our babies. So anyway, thank you. I've really enjoyed this. And sorry I got emotional. Um, but yeah, they they have no idea what they mean to us. So and it's great to share pet stories with people. It's just like talking about your kids. You know, sharing stories about your animals is it helps unite people too. So anyway, thank you.
Please don't feel like you have to apologize ever for being vulnerable and real and authentic and honest. It's really courageous and brave, and thank you for sharing that with us and for feeling comfortable enough to say these things. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
We do get unconditional love from pets. That is without a doubt.
I think there's a reason why this love that is so timeless. I mean, you look at, it reminded me of without getting into the academics of it all, because it doesn't matter, but in his book, Homo Sapiens, the historical writer Yuval Noah Harari talks about how dogs became man's companion, you know, a long time ago, before the agricultural revolution, pretty much during the discovery of fire, during the cognitive era, essentially. And it's really interesting because, you know, we've heard this thing our entire lives, you know, in our society. We're so conditioned by this expression called the survival of the fittest. You know, if you're strong, you make it, the survival of the fittest, the survival of the fittest. But actually, there's a wonderful anthropological theory and view that dogs have allowed us to look at from a long time ago that talks about the survival of the kindest. Dogs come from wolves. And the reason why wolves were sort of curious about Homo sapiens at the very beginning was because, you know, they were sort of preying on them and following at a distance, not really knowing what this was about and who are these people in group migrating from one place to another, what are they doing? And very quickly, man started to respond to the energy of these of these animals, of wolves, and they weren't aggressive towards each other. They sort of like welcomed each other, and the wolf and its upcoming generations that became dog started just following Homo sapiens around for generations and generations, and becoming a caretaker and watching over when they were sleeping and sort of guarding the area where they were setting camp. And you know, when man couldn't hunt and couldn't find anything, sadly they had to sacrifice certain animals in the group of wolves / dogs that were following them. And the ones they weren't sacrificing, the ones they were keeping with them as companionship, as animals of love and care, were the kindest. And the ones who had not transcended the wilderness of their genes were being sacrificed. And there's a lot of study made on the survival of the kindest. And that is what dog is showing us. That is the example that it's portrayed for millions of years now. And that is why its presence has been long, steady, timeless, and universal, because it does bring, as Chris says, unconditional love. And it is a reminder of presence and of consciousness and of the non-judgment that we so desperately seek in one another and struggle to find, this the mirror of the soul. And so it can sometimes be harder than lose a human companion, because we are connected to the truth and the essence of what it means to love from a place of divine, essentially. And that's something that ought to be celebrated. And if it's with tears, it's with tears. That's fine. And we accept and surrender to that, you know. Is anyone else?
I was just going to say, this is Kelly again. I was just going to say, like, when you're home, you know, alone, it's so nice to feel like you're not really just talking to yourself. And then you're talking to your animal. And I have a 96-year-old grandmother, and my twin sister actually gave her cat, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or something. But it's so interesting how connected she got to that cat. She had never had a cat before. The cat gets on her walker and goes around with her. And it's just, yeah. And she talks about her cat all the time. And it's, you know, she'll talk to her cat. And yeah, it's just that connection. And the way Bluebird created this, you know, Tootles tales, and how we're always talking for our animals. So it's just, she did a great job of creating those stories, and Tootles and her did take many adventures. So all those are very valid. So anyway, yeah, having a pet does just add, and I have friends that are allergic to pets, and that's, to me, it's sad. But I mean, it's not for everyone, just like kids aren't for everyone, but definitely have played a special role in my life forever. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Kelly. One of the I think
Yes.
Angela has raised a
It
hand.
was Kath.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Gail, I thought that was great. I really did. The way you empathize with the with Tootles and just spoke from her point of view. It was great. And it really brought back, I mean, I'm more of a cat person myself. I do love dogs, but they're a lot more responsibility than cats. Um, I just want to say thank you for doing it. I don't know if I would have the nerve to do it again because I forget words and stuff like that all the time these days. So thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, as another thing that popped into my mind, another memory is just how when I'd be at work all day long, and when I came home, the joy that I would be greeted with upon opening the door with Shoshana greeting me, just this abundant, overflowing joy that I was home, and it was kind of like, how that's one of the things I really miss with her passing. But I was also told that she would be waiting by the door, 20 minutes before I'd be home. And I didn't always keep a regular schedule. So she knew when I had left the office and I was on my way home somehow, back to the, psychic connection between dogs and owners and how deep that goes.
Catherine, did you have something you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I don't know how to raise my hand on this thing. It seems to have changed the bottom of those Zoom things. But I missed it, and I'm so sorry I missed it, Gail. I was looking forward to hearing your story. I just say something about cats. My son or my granddaughter's mother bought 2 cats. They're beautiful, beautiful cats. And I'm having a lot of difficulty right now with housing and a lot of stuff. And they're not really my cats, but I don't shut the door so they could come in because no one else is really with them. And they're beautiful, beautiful cats. And I lay down in my bed and they lick my face and they stay by me because I'm caring for them. And I feel kind of bad because they're not my cats, but yet at the moment in the now, they are beautiful creatures and they want to be with people as much as I want to be with a family and people. So yeah, that's it. These cats are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful beings, and they deserve love and they deserve to be held. That's all.
And it's interesting because I think what Catherine just said echoed exactly what Chris was talking about, this sort of, I mean, what can we call it except a psychic link, a sort of transcendental, energetic sort of communication field where something happens, but that the words fail us to describe what this connection and this relationship with animals mean. It's in the realm of the wordless. It's in the realm of the quantum. And we go back to this it's like almost our relationship with animals is this one facet of what it means to be connected to the global collective consciousness, and it's such a straightforward, pure, clear and powerful example of this connection that goes beyond the material and beyond words. So I think that's why we're also incredibly it feels like a homecoming. And I think that's why we're so incredibly attached to it, because it feels true, it feels right, and it feels essential, which I find fascinating. That it's also something that people who don't have pets yet have not yet experienced. But I don't know a single person who got a pet one day and regretted it. So it's this thing of waking up. It's the idea of waking up to a new truth, waking up to a new reality, and being introduced to something, a taste that was until then foreign, which is fascinating, and which also reminds me of this idea of a homecoming. Truly, yeah, I'm just rambling. Sorry, but I find it really interesting. What everyone's saying. Yeah.
No, again, no, I mean, I think that was incredibly well put, hugely well put. Yeah, and it's great to listen to everybody. And also, I just want to add also that that it's also, helpful that they're I have 2 dogs now. I had a cat, but I'm allergic to whatever. But that they're also not angels. Like that's helpful to me, even though it's not, it's a not to the extent of humans, but it's helpful to see them be selfish sometimes and greedy, and like one of my dogs is he can be vengeful. Like if he doesn't get what he wants, he'll go get something and tear it up. It's like all these things that's helpful to see. Okay, so those things, in me are natural. That's also helped me a lot, along with the beautiful things, that the unflattering things about myself are natural, along with the beautiful things, I guess, like them. All right, thanks.
And are beauty and love meant to be easy? It's
How many people, I'm sorry to interrupt, but how many people feel that their pets actually communicate with them?
Oh,
And maybe we could take a poll. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Tiffany, say something.
Danny, I don't see your hand up.
I remember one time, Kira, when you were talking about that part of your dogs, and it made me think about my 2 cats, and they're brothers. And there's this one one of them is like a house cat, and he's so like just domesticated and sweet. And the other one is an alley cat, and they come from the same litter. But the other one like steals toys and like does all of this really gnarly behavior that's just like, you're gross, dude, right? But then on the other hand, like with my daughter, he's so loving and protective and just emotionally there for her. And it's almost like necessary, because sometimes, people need to have like that big crazy thing that protects them, and he's that for her, but he gets on my nerves. He's so gross. He eats all the food. He just he's like a Chad all around the house, just owning my stuff, his brother's stuff. He doesn't mess with my daughter's stuff. um oh, funny. So yeah, that was one thing there with these guys. And I think that, like getting my cats, for me, it came out of nowhere. It was like really such an impulsive decision, but then to see how it was like, I think it was impulsive for a reason. Their names are Gomez and Fester, and they look like Gomez and Fester, and they act like Gomez and Fester. And but they kind of like, again, with the impulsivity that came along with getting them, I was, in a space where I was going through a lot of depression, like having a hard time cleaning, having a hard time keeping things in order. And once I got them, it was like, oh, dude, like we have to keep the house clean. There's nothing worse than a dirty house with animals in it too, So like this force to like have to keep my things in order, to have to do my laundry, because I was running from the other end of it, And so I think that like having them around and then being able to care for them and take care of that responsibility, that's a challenging part. I don't like being responsible for anything or anyone, but with them, like there's this healthy level of guilt of like, dude, like you have to take care of these animals, you know? And so it really kind of kicks me into gear with, you know, my battle through whatever I have, who knows, depression, this, that, or whatever. It's something that makes it hard for me to do things that makes my executive functions off, you know, but having them, I think, and that cohabitation and that responsibility and that, you know, that sense of, they definitely like kick in a sense of, you know, honor and integrity in me, where it's like, no, I have to be there for these guys. Even though I go through multiple hours per day where I do not like them. But again, it's a relationship, and that's what relationships are. Like sometimes it's like really, really great. And sometimes it's like, you're laying on my bed, licking yourself and you're loud and I hate it and you sound gross. And go away. And and I was like, they probably think the same thing when I'm doing something. They probably like, and the one I was telling you about that steals the toys and stuff, he'll like literally like sniff me and make like the ugliest face, like, you're gross too, you know? So it's hilarious. It's actually, and we've come to make jokes about it and see how funny it is. And you know, but he's my friend now. He had to stay with me while my daughter went to camp, and we developed a relationship after that. So now he doesn't treat me so, he's not so shady to me anymore, but he still will let me know that he doesn't like the way I smell regularly, you know. But yeah, they're funny, they're great, you know. So and I want to thank you, Miss Bluebird, for being here, and the innocence that you remind me of, and the tears that you helped me cry today, in a really gentle way. I thank you for communicating the way you are to us, and to the global community. I really appreciate your offering. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. And what a wonderful way to remember that. First of all, we're not alone in our emotions. They're universal. There's nothing wrong with our tears. We all share them. And second of all, we're not crazy for feeling this way. It's a completely collective experience, and that's beautiful to witness. So thank you.
Emmeline and Chris, what I like to do at this time when we have like 13 minutes left and 11 folks and a lot of people haven't spoken yet, if we could, if you can see everyone's name on the screen, if we could gently coax them into just asking them how they feel right at this moment. If you guys could coordinate that, that would be fantastic.
Sure, no problem. I'm just looking at the names. So there's Sister V. Are you here? Do you have any thoughts on what we've been sharing? You're muted if you're trying to speak. Or perhaps you're not there. Stacy Honey? Have you
Hi. Hi. Hello, everyone.
hello?
I don't have any pets right now other than my goldfish, but I did have two dogs when I was younger, and I have a cat that passed last year. Sadly, I had to leave him when I moved, and I felt pretty bad that I didn't get to see him in his last days, but you know, I'm dealing with it one day at a time. I think about my pets every day as if like people say part of your family. So you know, I'm still dealing with it, but yes, they were a great part of my life and I will never forget them.
Thank you, Stacy. John, are you there? Do you have anything to?
John is there.
Hello. you have any thoughts on pets and the relationship?
The actual fact is that I've never had any relationship with any animal because I've not been close to animals before. That's the only challenge. Just that I'm just learning from what people are saying, but for my own personal experience, actually, I don't have a relationship with them because I've never trained one or been with one. So I'm not sure.
Thank you, John. I think Angela, you shared earlier. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't have much more to share. I had two cats that I was very, very close to, and I had them both for, well, consecutively, not both at the same time. But they both lived about 18 years, and I still think of them all the time. I have things around here, pictures and stuff like that, mementos of them. And it was really tough losing them. It really was, both times. It's hard to get over. But thank you, Gayle, for being there and doing this for us today.
Thanks, Angela. And yeah, losing pets it's a hard one. It's a hard one. They when like I said, that was one of the having my dog greet me when I came home was a big sudden hole when she was gone. And something somebody else had mentioned too is the licking of the face. She would wake me up by licking my face, and which some mornings I loved and some mornings I hated. But it was overall, it was, I look back with such joy about those memories. Is there anyone else has anything more to add?
No, but I think I know why Tiffany was laughing at that.
I just want to say that I'm just blown away by people's descriptions. I mean, yeah, like Emily, what you said about that the relationship transcends words. I agree, and still somehow people here were able to express, describe relationships. I'm just blown away how like Tiffany, the way you yeah, like you describe this multi-dimensional relationship, with your cats. I just what everybody said. It's amazing how well people express themselves or described the relationships. Just think it's amazing.
And I love what you said, Tiffany. My cousin says that all the time. I mean, he's 5, but when he's angry, he always says, "All right, I don't like you right now, but I'll always love you, but I don't like you right now." And that's exactly what it is. We don't have to like them all the time. We don't have to like humans all the time. It doesn't matter. Love exists on a different realm, a different plane. Likeness is accessory, really.
Let's give Sister Aquapay. I know Aquapay from the clubhouse that we go to. Aquapay, are you there? Are you there? Aquapay, Sister V, Aquapay. All right, I think she's deep frying some donuts right now. So that is very dangerous work. The oil is very hot, and you must have complete concentration and focus. We understand, Aquapay. All right. Well, Tiffany, how are you feeling right at this moment?
I feel fine. How are you?
I don't know. I'm okay. Thanks for asking. It's always nice when the audience member asks one of the hosts how they're doing. I appreciate that, Tiffany. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dan.
Let's see. Oh, Kelly. Kelly, how are you feeling right at this moment?
I'm doing fabulous. Actually, getting ready to go for a walk in the woods with my dog and my husband, and we're gonna forage for mushrooms. We had a lot of rain yesterday, so wish us luck.
Now, what types of mushrooms grow in your forest?
What type of mushrooms grow in our forest, David? Oyster. We're looking for, yeah, shiitake, maitake. We found those. We found lion's manes. Morels are out right now, so that would be really cool if we could find those.
And you're
And
so
then
good
there's
at
some that are not edible, but they're still really cool to take pictures of. That's something we enjoy doing it. And we actually, last night, we're looking through pictures. I think we're gonna print some out and put them in the hallway to display. Anyway, that's
Cool.
something that we enjoy doing. And our dog tags along and
You
she
know,
loves it.
my dog loves mushrooms. Whenever I buy mushrooms, I put some mushrooms in his doggy bowl, and he loves
Okay.
them. Yes. Now, be
Wow.
very careful because the poison mushrooms sometimes look identical to edible mushrooms.
Yes, we are very careful. Actually, we've been doing it for several years now, but we have a mushroom app. And so you take the picture, the top, the side, the bottom. And then my husband has a book that he confirms it's the right mushroom, and then also online. But you are absolutely correct.
Well, that's
And we don't
interesting.
feed our dog any of the mushrooms, but that's interesting that you're doing that.
Yeah, I Googled it and it's safe and he loves it. So,
Yeah, there's lots of healthy benefits with the mushrooms.
it's interesting that there's a mushroom app that can identify edible mushrooms. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
And
I
if the
mean they are careful. They don't say that they're 100% and that you have to check your sources, check other sources because they don't want to be responsible. But it is really cool. Maybe I can share it in the chat. Let me see if I can do it. I could never figure out how to show my face for some reason this time, but I'll try to share the mushroom app in the chat if anybody's interested. There's a free version of it.
All right, now we have 3 minutes left. So let's turn it back to Bluebird. Bluebird, how are you doing? How is this experience for you? We got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I felt very good about it. I looked forward to it. I enjoyed reading a lot of different things and seeing how much out there is available, especially about communication. And yeah, there's just so much you can look up how dogs are being trained, and also the communication part is being written about more now. I enjoyed listening to everybody. Dan, we didn't hear about your dog. I think that's what I was waiting to hear about. But I want to thank everybody for sharing, for being part of this, and I thank all of you for coming, and also for Dan doing this so religiously, if that's a word, consistently, so available. I think one of the words for Dan is how available he is to us in so many different ways. And I've just been like amazed, Dan. I've just been waiting. What about your dog, Dan?
Oh yes. Well, we just got him back from the circus. He would leap through the water through these hoops like a dolphin, and then swim around like a dolphin, and then leap through the rings. Some of the rings were lit with fire. And very, very here, I'll show you how cool he is. right now. You can tell that he was once a circus dog. Hello,
What's a
Paxton.
circus?
Paxton. Can you see him, you guys? Okay. I think I see him. All right. Well, sort of. He's resting right now. He likes to rest in the back of my chair. But I want to thank you, Bluebird. It was a wonderful, I so enjoyed it, and I'm so appreciative that you came to this humble group to present. And I'll send an email out to everyone with your email, Bluebird, and your website, your arts website, and a little blurb about how that people can email you to get a signed copy sent to them if they just work out the exchange with you. So now, Emmeline and Chris, can you please close us out with some words?
I was actually going to suggest maybe Emmeline close us out with a conscious breath. As a
Thank you, Chris.
as a nice way.
All right.
I enjoyed that from last week, so I thought.
If you are able, try to put both of your feet on the ground, connect to the earth, cusp your hands and receive the present moment like that, like a gift. If you can't, that's completely okay. Just check into any part of your body that is available to you. Close your eyes and give yourself a wonderful, big, conscious breath that starts from the sacrum up until your third eye. And inhale. And gently exhale. And stay rooted into the love and the divine presence of just being in stillness. And we hold our heartfelt appreciation to all our four-legged friends out there in the world, and we send them love and health and care. So this breath was for them. And thank you, everyone.